Framework Part 1, Project Creation and a Folder Structure Implementation. So in this session we are going to create automation framework project, and we are also going to download a NuGet packages for the spec flow. We are also going to implement a folder structure for the automation framework. So let me start this session. So we will be having two separate projects in automation framework, one for a code and second for a test case writing and execution. So we are going to create two projects. One is a core.webui and another is automation runner. So if you talk about the core.webui, we are going to write a code here in the core.webui. If you talk about the automation runner project, we are going to use this automation runner project to write and execute the test cases. So let me create this automation framework projects here. Open a Visual Studio. Right now I have a Visual Studio 2019. So this is the first screen of a Visual Studio 2019. It is having 4 options: clone a repository, open a project or a solution. If you have already project or solution, then you can use this option to open a project. When you want to create a new project, then we have this option, create a new project. Select this create a new project, and it will take us to the project templates window. Here we can select a project templates, and if you talk about the project template provides a default folder structure to us, and it is going to download a default NuGet packages for us. So take an example. If we are going to select this console application project template, then this Visual Studio creates a default project structure for us with respect to the console application, and it is also going to download a few NuGet packages those we require to run this console applications. Right now we are going to use NUnit project templates. We have this NUnit test project, .NET Core, a C#. In this automation framework, we are going to use a spec flow. When we guys are talking about writing and executing the test cases of a spec flow, we need a test provider. NUnit is a test provider, XUnit as well as a MS test. So these test providers which we use to execute the test cases. But here we are going to use NUnit test provider to execute the test cases which we are going to write it in the spec flow. So let's select this NUnit, click on next. Here we need to provide the project name. I'm going to provide a automation dot framework dot core dot webui, and if you want you can change the location as well, but I am going to keep this location which is provided by the Visual Studio default D drive automation framework. If you want you can change the solution name. Right now the solution name and the project name is same. I am going to change this solution name to the automation framework. Click on next. It will take us to the next window. Here we need to select a target framework. So we have two type of the target frameworks right now. So one is a .NET Framework 4.8 and it is a .NET Core. So we use a target frameworks whenever we are creating our automation framework. We need to use APIs. And if we are saying we are going to use this target framework, it means we are going to use this API which is provided by the .NET Core. And if you talk about this .NET Framework 4.1, if we select this, it means we are going to use the APIs of this .NET Framework. Here we have a target frameworks. One is a .NET Framework and another is a .NET Core. So when we are creating any application, when we are creating any project and we want to run that project on a different operating systems. Take an example. If you want to create an application and you want that application to run on Mac machine, Windows machine, as well as on the Linux machine, then you need to select a .NET Core 3.1, or can say you need to select this .NET Core target framework. If you want your application or project only to run on the Windows machine, then you can select this .NET Framework as a target framework. I am going to select this .NET Framework 4.8. Click on create and it will create a project for us. Automation framework project is ready with us. Under the automation.framework solution, we have a project core.webui. So this core.webui project we are going to use to write the code. If we talk about execute and write the test cases, we need to create a separate project that we call it as a automation runner. So let's click on this solution and add new project. And here we can select a NUnit test project. Click on next. Here we need to provide the name. We can say automation runner and click on next. The target framework needs to be same as we have selected for the core.webui. We have selected a .NET Framework 4.8 for the core. We are going to select this for the automation runner as well. Click on create. Now we have an automation runner project with us. We can see we have the default folder structure which is provided by the Visual Studio because we have selected a default template as an NUnit. This NUnit NuGet package, we need to remove it. Let's do a remove. So we are going to use a spec flow to write the test cases. We are going to use a Gherkin language to write our test cases in simple plain English language. To for that, what we need to do is we need to download a NuGet packages. And if you talk about the NuGet package is nothing but a API, or you can say the methods or the program which are exposed by some other person, and that library, that package we are going to use in our projects to perform the actions. Right now we need a SpecFlow NuGet package. Right click on the project, and here is the manage NuGet packages. So let's go and browse SpecFlow here. Okay, let's have this SpecFlow. Okay, we need to install this SpecFlow NUnit because we are going to use a test provider to execute the test cases, which is this SpecFlow NUnit. We need to install this. Right now we have different versions. We are also getting a pre-releases because we have selected this include pre-release checkbox. So that is the reason behind it. We were getting all the pre-releases. Now let's select this include pre-releases, and we can see we are getting the pre-releases, the beta versions of this SpecFlow NUnit as well. We are going to install a stable version 74 at this point of time. Click on install and click on OK, and it will install a SpecFlow NUnit, and we can see this SpecFlow NUnit package is available with us. We have the NUnit, which is a test provider, SpecFlow, and a SpecFlow tool, MS build generation packages coming up with the SpecFlow NUnit. So let's do one thing. Let's commit here and install a NuGet package here as well. Let's remove this NUnit, remove, and now we can install a NuGet package for a core.webui as well. So here, let's go here. Select a stable version from the drop down 74, click on install and click on OK, and we can see the SpecFlow NUnit NuGet package is available with us. So we have two projects ready with us. One is a core.webui, another is a automation runner. One is a automation core.webui, another is a automation runner. All libraries will be added in the core framework project, which is this core.webui. User can use automation runner to write and execute the test cases. If you talk about the automation runner, we are also going to use a NUnit test provider. This test provider we are going to use to execute the test cases. So if we talk about the framework folder structure, so we are going to create a folder structure. This folder structure under the automation runner, we have the dataset, resources, results, and the test cases. So let's go and create this folder structure here under this automation runner. So let's close these all. Let's have this close as well. Right click and say close all tabs. So let's go and create a folder structure here. Right click, add new folder. We have the resources. Another folder structure is going to have the test cases. And then we are going to have a results. Another folder structure we can have it for a data sets as well. You can say a data set location. We have created 4 folders. One is a test cases folder. So whatever the test cases you are going to write it, those are going to place it here under the test cases folder. So whenever we are going to run an automation framework, the engine is going to target this test cases folder to execute the test cases. So this result folder is going to have all the results as well as the logs for which we are going to execute the test cases. Another is the resources folder. This resources folder is going to have the information related to a environment setup or the configuration related to an application. As well as if you are going to run your test cases locally, then we need a few drivers as well, the Chrome driver, IE driver, or you can say Edge driver. So those resources we are going to place it here, or you can say those exes we are going to place it here under the resources folder. We have the dataset location folder as well. So whenever you are going to upload a files, then those files you can place it here under this dataset location, or you can say whenever you are going to download a few files from the application, those can be downloaded here under the dataset location. Folder structure is ready with us. We have the test cases folder and will be used to place all the test scripts, and the framework engine will target to execute the test cases. Result folder is going to have all the results with respect to the execution of the test cases. It is also going to have the information related to the logs. If we talk about the resource folders, we'll be having a different type of the resource files. One is a framework setting.json file. So we use this framework setting.json file to set the environment of that particular automation. Take an example, if you want to execute your test cases on a Chrome browser, then you need to provide the information here in the framework setting.json file. Another is, if you want to take a screenshot of every step, then you need to provide the information here in the framework setting.json file. This framework setting.json file, you can say, is a configuration file for the automation framework. It sets the environment for the automation framework. So let's go and create this framework setting.json file here in the automation framework. Under the resources, we can create it. Right click on the folder, new item, select a web. Here is a JSON file. We are going to create a JSON files here. We can give the name as a framework settings.json file. To speed up the process, I have already have information related to framework settings.json file. So let's commit here, and now we can paste it here. So these are the fields which we are going to add it here in the framework setting.json file. The first field is a browser type, on which browser you want to run it. Take an example of, if you want to run it Chrome, then you can mention it here, a Chrome. If you want to run your test cases on the Safari, then you can mention a Safari here as a browser type. Then whatever the test cases you are going to execute it, those will be executed on the Safari. Okay, if you not mention anything or you leave it blank, then the Chrome browser is a default browser for us. Another is a browser version. If you want to run your test cases on a specific browser version, then you can give the browser version here. Another is a GridHub URL. So this GridHub we are going to learn in the later sessions. For the timing, we can imagine we have the GridHub. Whenever you want to execute your test cases parallel, then we use this GridHub, and the URL you need to provide it here for that particular GridHub. Here, if you don't provide a GridHub URL, then we are thinking that you want to run your test cases locally. Another is related to a region. So this region information is going to be have the information related to an application environment. The URL, the username, password, all the information you are going to save it with this region. So we are not going to add all the information here in this region tag or in this region field. We are going to create a separate file here that we call it as an application region.json file. Another is a step screenshot. The default is off. If you want to have the screenshot of every step, then you need to change this off to on. And if you keep it off, then only the screenshot of the failed test case will be captured. Another is extend portal URL, extend report to a portal. So these things we are going to learn it later in the sessions. Whenever you want to send the reports to a portal, then we are going to provide the information here related to a portal URL, and whether you want to push the reports to the portal or not, then we are going to have on or off. Another information we are going to get it with the help of the log levels. We are getting the reports, as well as we are going to get the detailed information about the execution of the test cases, that we call it as a log level. The default is a debug, and we have a few more information related to a debug, information, warning, error, and fatal. So if you don't want to get all the information related to logs, then you can change the log level. So this debug is going to provide all the information. And then if you want only a error related information in the log file, then you can mention a error here. Another field is a dataset location. Sometimes you want to upload the files in the application, then you can provide the information here in the dataset location. If you not mention it any path, then the default location we are treating it this dataset location which is present inside the automation runner. If you provide some path, then this dataset location will be ignored and provided path will be used to upload the files. And if you talk about the downloaded location, so this downloaded location is used whenever you are going to download files from the application. This downloaded location, the default location is this dataset location. If you want to download a file at a particular path, then you need to provide the path here, and then this default location will be ignored. So this information will be used by the automation framework engine to set the automation environment. Or you can say these are the configuration information for the automation framework. If you talk about the application, or you can say if you talk about the region, we are going to create another file here. Right click, add new item, a web, and then the JSON file. So let's provide the information here, application region. So here we need to provide the information related to an application. Take an example of if you want to execute your test cases on a particular environment, application environment, then you need to provide the information related to URL, username, and the password. So those information we are going to save it here in the application region.json file. To speed up the process, I have already added the information. Let's go it here, copy and commit here to paste it. We have the different regions here, and these regions are nothing but the information related to a application environment. So which application you want to test it, or you can say which application under test. And we have the username here. You can provide multiple regions here. Take an example, if you want to run your test cases in the S2 region, then we need to provide the information here. If you want to use testing region, a T2 region, to execute your test cases, then you need to provide the information here. So this tag you need to provide it here in the framework settings. Then automation framework reads all the information related to this T2 environment from this application region file, and all the information will be saved in the framework, and the test cases will be running on this particular environment. And if you want to run your test cases on this staging environment, then you need to provide this S2 here in the region tag, and then whatever the information we have it for that particular environment, those are going to get it with the help of this region tag. So these two files, application region and a framework setting.json file, help us to provide the information, or you can say these file will act as a configuration file for us. Application region setting.json file will be saving all the information related to a application environment. So we have created the project score.webui automation runner. This score.webui we are going to use and write the code, and this automation runner will be provided to the user to write and execute the test cases. If you want to learn professional automation framework with C#, SpecFlow, Selenium with different design patterns, please join the course on Udemy. You can also download a full automation framework code as well. You can find a course link below in the description tab. Please subscribe this channel to learn automation testing concepts.